let us end today's guest run on this show with the great Michael Chandler, who's kind enough to join us once again. Always great to talk. Wow, look at this setup, Mike. Every time you level up on the setup. What is this camera?
Man,
your camera's better than mine.
I'm just trying to keep up with you, dude. I've been watching you for a decade, man.
Wow,
come on now.
This is a high-end camera right here. It's like film quality. I feel like you're in the studio right now. This is amazing. Are you at home right now?
What I'm trying to do. I am home. This is my home studio, man.
Wow.
You know, trying to level up, man, in every area of life. I've been on hiatus for a year, so you know, we're just we're doing some things outside the cage.
What a pun! Well done. That's why you're a pro.
Yeah.
On hiatus.
Yeah.
You made an announcement this morning. Could you tell us what it was?
I did. Yeah. A little over a year ago, I tried my favorite tequila on the planet called Hiatus Tequila, and I knew from the very first sip I wanted more of it, but I also wanted to be involved more. So I got in touch with the owner and founder, Christopher DeSoto, and I would like to announce I am a investor and owner of Hiatus Tequila. So we are setting out to revolutionize and change the view of what tequila is, just like I've always tried to change the view of what a fighter is. Obviously, here I am doing things outside of just fighting. So
right. Now, how do you revolutionize tequila?
Well, in today's market where you see so many celebrity brands or anybody coming in, standing up brand new tequilas, throwing a bunch of additives and flavors and different rectifications and glycerins and all kinds of stuff throughout the process, making it as cheap as possible to make the highest margins. Our founder, Christopher DeSoto, who is a huge tequila connoisseur, actually lived 8 years in Mexico, wanted to create a tequila that is for tequila people, a tequila that is made the way tequila was supposed to be, intended to be. Very far away from a far cry from what a lot of the newer stuff on the markets are these days. So Hiatus Tequila was born a couple of years ago. I loved it so much that I wanted to come on board, and not just come on board as a ambassador or a guy who pushed the brand, but somebody who was actually in the business behind the brand. And we've traveled a couple places already. We were in New York City. We are in New York. New York is one of our markets. I'm going to Indiana this week. I was in Florida last week. So we're out there spreading the word of what Hiatus Tequila is.
Like others in the past, did you think of launching your own brand?
I did, yeah. And that is, it's good because there's a nice long barrier to entry to actually start your own brand. Obviously these days with people who have crazy amounts of resources and crazy amounts of platform, the different celebrities and these different business people who can come in and crack the market pretty quickly, it still takes a very long time. So for me, instead of inventing my own, starting my own, I found one that I really, really liked. In my opinion, it's the best. And that's why I'm willing to stake my name and put my name and reputation behind it. And, you know, like a lot of people know, I don't just put my name behind anything. It's something I have to truly believe in, and not just believe in the product, but believe in the people. And here we are. We're finally getting to announce it because it's been months and months and months we've been keeping the secret. And just curious, I mean, like I've seen you. I mean, I don't know. Do you have like 2% body fat? How much body fat do you have on you? I mean, 1.5. Yeah, about 1.5. I'm right around that 1.5.
Is it true?
No, I mean, a little bit more than that. No, definitely more than that. I don't think you can really
I would
live
believe
at 1.5
you. I would
fat.
believe you, by the way, if you had 1.5. But like, how does tequila fit in the diet?
Well, I mean, I'm not drinking it pre and post workout, you know, but it is funny too. You know, I actually threw out a little teaser, and a couple people picked up on it. And obviously now people are seeing it, that it's 100% done deal. And a lot of people think I don't even drink, right? Which I guess is a good thing. But just because I'm not constantly posting about it or constantly promoting it, if you will, and out there partying, doesn't mean I don't like to kick back, relax with people I know, love, trust, and enjoy to be around, and sip on some tequila responsibly and enjoy a little hiatus. Because similar to you and a lot of people out there, when you're always on and you're always thinking about the next thing, you're always working, you're always got your business hat on, or for me, it's my fitness hat or my training hat. Sometimes it's nice to just kick back, shut everything off, and pour a nice glass of Hiatus Tequila and actually be off the clock. So I do drink responsibly, just not too much in excess.
We've talked about Cram Nutrition. That was the peanut butter jelly that I was referring to. How many businesses do you have outside of fighting?
5 or 6. Speed Fitness, I'm the chief athletic officer there, so helping with innovating the product and also building it out to the masses, both at home and commercially. We have our Walk On Fitness app. I'm invested in a lot of real estate. What else we got? couple things. So it's as I said, I have been on hiatus the last year, which was kind of a pun, obviously, because that is the name of our tequila brand. But between fights, I'm always thinking about what I can do post-fight career. What can I do now that's going to get me and my family to the position where we can continue to thrive long after I lay the gloves down? And I actually, ever since the Bellator tournament, that first $100,000 check that I got over those 3 fights, I bought my first house there in Las Vegas, and then parlayed that into a new house, and then have now done a bunch of investments. Man, every single dollar that I've ever made, I set aside X amount for taxes, and then every single other dime of it has been gone into investments to set myself up for the future. So,
did any mentor, any fighter at the beginning of your career tell you, I don't need to tell you, but there's a lot of fighters who don't do any of this, right? And they're just so focused on today, and then the career ends, and then they're in deep trouble. Did anyone tell you that you have to do this while you were fighting, and thus you are putting that into practice?
Yeah, I mean, the two guys actually that I followed into the sport, Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, they both had that kind of entrepreneurial kind of brain. Tyron always looked at himself like a business, not just an athlete. Ben the same way. Ben has very, very successful wrestling academies across Wisconsin and Minnesota and Iowa and all those different areas. He's doing great. Tyron's doing great as well. But even past that, and I've just been very, very blessed with a deep, deep relationship capital bank. Just the guys that I've been around, businessmen around the world, ways that these guys are investing in other companies, building up their relationship capital bank, to be able to build companies outside of just what they do. I am friends with a speaker, but he doesn't just speak. He uses the money from speaking to then turn into other businesses or become a spokesperson for other businesses. So, it's always been something I've been interested in. I always knew, or I always kind of shied away from the fact that, or the notion that if I'm a fighter, I have to be 100% a fighter. I could be 100% a fighter and be on my off time focusing on businesses outside of the cage, focusing on financial literacy, focusing on doing good business with good people that will carry me on into the rest of my life long after putting the gloves down and my fight career is over.
Are you annoyed that you didn't fight in 2023?
Annoyed, frustrated at times. Absolutely. Annoyed maybe a little bit here and there because, we get that rush. We love fighting. We love competing. I do train a lot. So it is hard to train. Even me, even being known as the guy who trains a lot and I live this life, it is hard to have your training, but not have that carrot dangled in front of you and that light at the end of the tunnel of an actual date. But if, anybody who has seen all of my fights in the UFC thus far, or even the fights before that, I've been extremely active over the last 15 years. It's been a 15-year career. Have fought extremely hard, some very, very tough fights I've had since I came into the UFC, especially. I fought everybody inside the top 5, basically, fights of the year, knockouts of the year, all of those different things. So anytime I find myself being frustrated, I believe I'm always able to go back to my North Star that, hey, it's going to work out the way it's going to. Just like me coming to the UFC, that door stayed closed until it was time for that door to open. The door opening for this fight with Conor, whatever it's finally supposed to be, it will be. And I'm just being at peace in the midst of the waiting. And sometimes at the lack of haste that has happened over the last year. But as we said, we're working on things outside of the cage. And it's been the biggest blessing in physically not taking the damage. And it's also been a great blessing spiritually being able to spend a ton of time with my family as well over the last 12 months.
Have there been days or weeks where you have lacked motivation, where you have said, what am I? Yes. And what do you do in those instances?
Yes. And I say that with my emotions on my sleeve. I want people to not look at us fighters like we're some kind of superhuman, completely different than you or completely different than anybody listening, man. It's tough. And even for me, where I provide for my family by getting in a cage and fighting. I provide for my family by being in the best shape possible, by supplementing correctly, eating correctly, putting the right things into my body to make sure my body lasts as long as possible. And then refraining from things that will, not prolong, but take away from my career. Right. So, getting good sleep and being able to be rested is obviously very important for me. But mainly, there's been days where just like you guys, and I've seen everybody's, I've seen the media talking about it. I've seen the media talking about Conor fighting somebody else. And I've seen people talk about, hey, you're not getting the red panty night, just, pack up shop and leave. Obviously I don't put a ton of weight into those words that are being said, because I know what's going on and I know this fight is happening. But when it's 6, 8, 10 months away, at times, it was definitely hard to keep the motivation. So anybody who is out there who is lacking motivation, the sun will really come up tomorrow, and you get a new day to be motivated, a new day to be inspired, a new day to do whatever you need to do to keep that motivation. And that's what I've tried to do over the last 12 months. And luckily I got a lot of great people around to keep me busy, got a lot of great business opportunities to keep me busy, and a great family that I get to serve.
All right. So no better time than now. Can you finally tell us UFC 300? Is it happening? Conor versus Mike. I mean, is it finally going to happen? Can we stop talking about this and hypothesizing and trying to read the tea leaves? Is it happening, UFC 300?
Hey, listen, nobody would like the hypothesizing to stop more than me. All right. I've been on waiting. And yes, obviously I talked about this big announcement today, and people are like, okay, finally we're going to get the Conor and Chandler fight. Right. So I know, to anybody out there who I ticked off today, I'm sorry. But I don't have any information. Obviously that would be a dream scenario. That's when I would like to fight, where I would like to fight, who I would want to fight. Chandler versus Conor is happening. I don't have a date or a location or a UFC number for you. But it's definitely going to happen next year. So, we're going to enjoy the holidays, and we're going to stay in shape. And then, we go back into training camp in January, and I will train my tail off until that fight happens.
Last month, I had John Kavanaugh, his head coach, in studio, and he told me, I was bummed. It looks like summertime. But then I was told plans may have changed and UFC 300 was back on as a possibility. Does this mesh with what you're hearing?
Hey, listen, I respect Conor and I respect Coach Kavanaugh. All right. We're very cordial, right? I don't have to hate Conor to want to go out there and rip his head off in front of millions of people. But these guys are very good at creating their own narrative and throwing little breadcrumbs out there that are just stale as heck and not even a mouse would eat them. All right. So just remember, when they say things, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Maybe it was, maybe they're saying things for the reason of just making people like yourself and all of us speculate. And also me speculate. All right. I've seen Conor talk about other opponents. I've seen Conor talk about different dates. I've seen Conor talk, completely dismiss me and act like the fight with me isn't happening. These are all ways that these guys try to get inside of people's heads. Unluckily for them, your boy's bulletproof. All right. So we're good. So we're staying with the plan. We're right where we need to be. I've had a year plus now to think about and visualize knocking Conor out, watching all of his tapes, seeing the training footage that's coming out. I see that he's training. I see that he's coming back. He was, obviously he joined USADA, got back in the USADA testing pool. He's not doing that unless he's actually coming back. So, he's trying to wait me out, smoke me out, but, I'm going to be waiting here, man. The greatest comeback in combat sports history, that road goes through one man, and his name is Michael Chandler.
Yeah, by the way, I was just going to ask you about that. What do you make, if anything, of the footage of him training out in, UAE? I
love it, man. I mean, it's good to see, for a while, all we saw was him not training, right? And obviously the speculation was out there, right? He's never coming back. You look at him, he's going off the rails, man. Conor's first love always has been and always will be mixed martial arts. I do believe he's romantic about it, and I do believe he's got a self-image the size of Mount Rushmore. So he needs to come back and feel that. He needs to come back and feel that energy, and I think he's going to. I know he's going to. Might not be on the timeline that you want, I want, or somebody else wants. The common folk out there talking about him never coming back, or timelines, or he's taking too much time off, but he's out there training. I don't think it's old footage. I think it's new footage. I think it's current footage. So he's out there training. So, you see me training, you see him training. We're going to keep on letting people speculate when this fight is, but, the clash between Chandler and McGregor is happening.
Would you not agree though? I mean, just looking at the upcoming cards and who's fighting, it's too perfect UFC 300. It has to be like this. I mean, what are we doing here? It has to be UFC 300, right?
If I was a promoter, you're right, man. I mean, you're one of the most interested in the entire industry, right? You got your finger on the pulse of the entire industry. I mean, with the lot of fights that could be happening, big fights that could be happening. You got Dana out there talking about super fights. I'm sure they are putting some very interesting pie in the sky, huge matchup super fights together. for a card as monumental as UFC 300 is. Obviously, Conor and I is the biggest fight that we can talk about. But yeah, we don't have a date yet. We don't have a UFC event yet. But yeah, I think it would work out pretty darn great. So if that works out, if that's in the card, I will be very happy to come out of my hiatus and jump into a training camp for that.
But you have been told definitively your next fight is against him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Conor's not coming back and fighting anybody else. No matter who he talks about, no matter what things he tries to will into existence, he's coming back and he's fighting me. We're the Ultimate Fighter. We signed on a contract. We made a commitment. I'm a man of my word. I believe he's a man of his word. And the UFC is men of their word. So we'll see.
By the way, I know that some fighters in the past have had like Conor clauses in their contract. I would imagine same for you, right? Like it's a totally different deal when you fight him. I hope so. And I feel like given your representation, I would be shocked if not.
Yeah, I do have great representation. And man, people can say what they want, but you do the right thing for long enough. Good things work out and work out in your favor, man. If you're somebody who shows up and does what they say they're going to do, I always go back to that first conversation I had with Hunter Campbell. I said, hey, I want to show up and I want to fight the toughest guys right away. And I don't want to tiptoe around the top 10. I want to either prove I am who I say I am or I'm not. And I think I've come in. I haven't won every single fight, but I sure have won over a lot of people with heart, determination, and grit. And I do believe I'm one of the most exciting guys and most fascinating guys inside of the cage. So things are working out. We're doing all right, and I think this fight is going to happen. So.
But by the way, do you remember where you were during UFC 200? Did you watch that live?
Shoot, man, I do not. Was that the yellow canvas one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was. What year was that?
2017? That was 2016. July of 2016. Mark Hunt, Brock Lesnar, Misha Tate, Amanda Nunes. Jones tested positive.
I think I was at John Radke's house down in Florida. I think I was training down in Florida during that fight. I think we had a couple of the guys there, a couple of the fighters. Because I remember the yellow canvas.
Yeah.
So
the reason I ask is like obviously you were very much entrenched in the Bellator world at that point, but did you ever watch those big events and say like, man, I want this. I want pay-per-view Las Vegas Saturday night, the eyes of the sporting world on me. This is what I really want.
Every single time.
Right.
Every single time. And that's not because I wasn't happy with Bellator. It wasn't because I didn't love right where I was, right where my feet were. But, and I've said this numerous times, just like I said a second ago, sometimes in life, you got to wait for the door to be open. You got to wait for the door not to be locked. And the couple contract negotiations that I went through, it just wasn't the right time. And obviously me coming over to the UFC when I did was the exact perfect time for me to come over. Physically, spiritually, mentally, who I was as a human being. But yeah, man, I always watched those fights. Obviously I had a lot of the friends, and the most interesting thing was I trained with so many of those guys who were big names in the UFC, champions in the UFC, right? So it wasn't like I was over on this little island called Bellator and I wasn't intermingling with all of the UFC champions and all the big name UFC guys. So I could stand my career up next to them. I could stand my discipline, my hard work, how I lived my life up next to them. And I always thought, man, if this guy can do it, I sure as heck can, but it's got to be the right time, and obviously it worked out. It has worked out very well for me. And yeah, man, it's now we got the biggest fight of our lives coming up.
And I saw a tweet from you. You believe in your heart of hearts, Conor and then title shot?
I believe obviously that's me believing, or at least confident expectancy of what I believe is happening. I'm in the top 5, a win over Conor. Maybe a lot of people don't think that's indicative of a title shot next. Obviously you just had Arman come out and beat Dariush. So that throws a wrinkle into things. Obviously you got Gaethje, you got Oliveira, you got Poirier. Those guys have beaten me. So, we'll see. I think I'm focused on the Conor fight, but man, once I finish Conor the way I think I'm going to finish him within the first 2 rounds, and you get on that kind of platform, that kind of get that kind of buzz, man, and I just want to fight Islam so bad. I think I have a ton of respect for Islam. I stand corrected. I have to insert my foot in my mouth a couple different times. I thought he was going to lose to numerous guys. He never did. He is who he said he was, and I want to go out there and compete against him. So we'll see after I knock Conor out.
Just wanted to ask you 2 things about Saturday. First off, what was your reaction to seeing Arman do that to Beneil Dariush? 64 seconds, knocking him out like that.
Yeah, I didn't see the fight. I was at a murder mystery party, so I didn't see the fight.
What is a murder mystery party, by the way?
Well, it's a murder. So I was actually played a guy named Paul Ologist. Was an Irish doctor from Ireland. So I think the people who put it on kind of knew. Yeah, so exactly. That was very fitting. But basically, we all went, and it was a big game where one of us was the killer, and it wasn't me. So we all had to kind of piece together all the evidence to try to find out who actually killed whoever. I forget who died, but someone died and someone killed him. It was Raylan's husband, Josh. Josh Davis killed him. Okay. So I missed the fights, but I did see the highlight. And man, he landed the big shot, put him down, and finished him emphatically, man. And it's hard to see Beneil go out like that, but it's hard to see any of us to go out like that, right, man? We train so hard. I know Beneil. He lives that champion lifestyle, and Arman has proved that he's now joined the ranks of us here in that top of the division. We'll see where the rankings come out tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see, but then you got to see what happens next with the division. So we'll see.
He says this time next year he's champ. Do you see that? Obviously, you want to be in that discussion as well, but do you see that in him? Do you think he could beat Islam? They fought in 2019. He took that fight on short notice. It was his debut. Do you think he has what it takes to be the guy at 155?
I've always said too, anybody in the top of the division, we're all one good night and your opponent's bad night away from us winning, right? Any of us can beat any of us in the top of the division on any given night. I do think Arman's got a heck of a skill set. Obviously he showed it the best of himself by beating Beneil and knocking Beneil out. So this time next year, he could be in the talks for, that number one contender fight or fighting for the title. Obviously him and Islam, the UFC loves putting storylines together where guys have history. Obviously I don't have the history with, Islam. So, Gaethje wins that title or Oliveira wins that title. Poirier wins that title. There's a storyline there with me and those fights that I've had with those guys, but you could definitely throw Arman's name into the hat. And this is me, I try not to speak with too much ego, when I talk about fights, right? I have no problem saying the guy's talented. He's young. He's hungry. He's got history with Islam. He deserves to have his name thrown in that hat.
And just for my own sanity, I know you were busy on Saturday, but maybe you saw the clip online. I've now, in the last hour, asked Dan Hooker and Arman about this, and both of them disagreed with my stance. So perhaps I'll get the answer I was looking for out of you. I thought the stoppage in the Bobby Green fight was insane, and that it went on way too long, and it could have been very, very, very serious. It was just completely reckless. It was 12 seconds of unnecessary damage. Did you see this stoppage? And do you agree with me? Because both of them made me seem like a total wimp for complaining about this. The guy was lifeless on the ground, taking unnecessary damage.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I saw the highlight, but I didn't see enough of the highlight from all the different angles. But I will say, it seemed like the general consensus was it was a little bit too long. It was definitely too long. But if you ask Bobby Green, Bobby Green wouldn't mind 12 seconds. Sure. A lot of us fighters who are like that, Dan Hooker especially. I haven't watched enough of Arman's fights to be able to speak for him, but watching Dan Hooker's fights, we want that extra 12 seconds. If I'm still alive, don't finish the fight because I could get up and win this fight. But with that being said, yeah, it's tough to see those later stoppages like that, but I don't have enough information to actually give but I would never call you a wimp. You're definitely not a wimp.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
See,
look at those guns. I mean, come on. One last thing, if I can. I remember around 2 years ago in the studio, I had a young man named Ian Garry, and I asked him about his relationship with you, and it seemed like there was some older brother, younger brother thing going on, and I don't know, and both of you kind of laughed it off. Since then, he has been on quite the journey, and it seems like a lot of people in the MMA community are upset with him. And I'm not talking about the family stuff. I'm talking about, jumping around gyms and cameras and all this stuff. Can I get your take on, what he's dealing with? I'm sure you've seen some of this stuff and heard some of the blowback.
Yeah, I have seen little bits and pieces of it. I haven't spent enough time to sit there and kind of piece it all together and look at all the stuff. I know it involves his wife and it involves some DMs and all these different stuff and Sean Strickland inserting his opinion. So it's a very huge storm of stuff. Mine and Ian's relationship is funny just because he is I got to be honest with you. I think he's a little bit like what I wish I could be mentality wise when it comes to my fight camps. When I go into my fight camps, don't talk to me, don't look at me sideways, don't speak to me unless spoken to. I kind of turn into that guy where I take it so seriously. And the way that he is, he's so happy-go-lucky. He doesn't care about anything whatsoever, right? So our demeanors and our mindsets during training camp are a little bit different. He could be in the middle of the hardest sparring rounds ever, and he's just completely fine. And I'm like ready to rip off my headgear and kick it across the gym, right? So a differing in kind of mentalities when it comes to like that. That doesn't mean his is right, mine's wrong, or vice versa. But then when it comes to that, I know obviously I was just down in Florida last week. I was training with Vicente, Shavkat. Those guys are obviously fighting in a couple weeks in Vegas. I'll be out there. Ian chose not to do his camp this camp in Florida with us, so it's interesting. But as far as Ian goes, man, he's got a ton of talent. He's got that Irish mystique to him, the way that he speaks and his accent, all that kind of stuff. He's got the talent to boot. He's got the confidence. If he keeps his head on his shoulders, he could be champion one day for sure. But he's got a tough test ahead of him in Vicente. And both of those guys I would consider teammates pretty much right now, probably Vicente even more because I've trained with Vicente for years and years, and Ian is now kind of bouncing around a little bit. So we'll see how it works out for him. He's very much a me kind of fighter, whereas I've always been a we kind of fighter, focus on the team more than myself. And he's more of a, hey, I know exactly what to do. I'm the guy who steps inside the cage kind of guy. So we'll see how it plays out for him, but I don't think he's a bad dude. He picked Conor to beat me, I think, which is good. He's his childhood hero, man. So me and Ian can have that fun little, banter back and forth, but it's all good, man.
Can I ask you bluntly, because it's been said, does he have bad gym etiquette?
I would not say, man, I don't know about the gym etiquette. I mean, he doesn't show up on time all the time, and he doesn't show up at every practice, which really ticks me off. But that ticks me off about anybody else. There's only a few people that I would actually say have perfect gym etiquette when it comes to that. Gilbert Burns being one of them. Shout out to Gilbert Burns, my favorite fighter. But he as far as etiquette goes, I mean, I don't really even know what gym etiquettes he's out there, quote unquote, are supposedly breaking. But to me, he was always a pretty cool dude. I never had any problems with him, aside from the fact that it could be anybody. It could it could be the sweetest person in the world, and I'm still like, hey, get away from me, dude. I need a second. I'm in training camp right now. I'm kind of a psychopath, so you can't judge my judge of character during training camp too well.
Fair enough. By the way, how good is Shavkat?
Shavkat's good, man, and just silent killer, man. Just he's quiet, but he smiles. He's a little bit eerily nice in real life, right? Compared to the guy who goes out there and fights, but that's how a lot of us are. That's how a lot of people kind of describe me as well, right? Try to enjoy life as much as you can outside of the cage. And then when that cage door closes, turn into an absolute animal. And Shavkat's good. Vicente was looking good as well. So I'm excited to go watch those guys lay it on the line in a couple weeks in Vegas. Was that UFC 290 something?
Yeah. 6 maybe.
6. Yeah.
December 16th. Where can people learn more about Hiatus?
Oh, shophiatustequila.com right now. Blanco, Reposado, and Añejo. Obviously, the Blanco is our flagship. Everything else is made by it. The Reposado is aged 6 months, and our Añejo is aged 12 months. So we're excited about the rollout. And New York is one of our markets. I can't name specific places that we were at, but I did go have a nice steak dinner at a phenomenal steakhouse a couple weeks ago when I was there, and they now carry all 3 expressions of Hiatus. So it's awesome to be in New York City, man. That's your city.
Yes, absolutely. We're showing the photo right now. Congratulations on this launch, on another feather in your cap from a business standpoint. And basically, it's come down to, if it's not McGregor Chandler at UFC 300, we riot. That's it. We riot. We're rioting in the streets. I mean, it's just there. It's right there. I'm accepting nothing less. That's the fight. It's the biggest one that they can make. Let's stop playing footsie. Let's make it happen. I hope it happens for your sake and his sake and for all of our sakes. It would be a great thing to see. Congrats on this, Michael. Thank you, as always, for the time. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ariel. See you at the top.
There he is, Michael Chandler. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel. So please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.